is the second trial session English assessment review for grade 9 at the International School of Innovation. Make sure you listen carefully for hints and tips that will help you in your exam. The topics covered are summarized here, but they are not limited to the topics covered in your reviews earlier this semester. Now, focus on the theme areas of sports, family ties, human behaviors, superstitions, and mysteries. But don't forget that tolerance and self-confidence may also be embedded in the text you receive. Now, make sure you know author's purpose, tone, fact opinion, point of view, character setting, plot, cause-effect relationships, and figurative language. You must revise your grammar, quoted and reported speech, passive, active, and all grammar tenses. Here you will notice that you have about 3 pages of notes to read and study before the practice assessment. Okay, so read carefully. There are also different types of questions you will receive, and the notes explain to you what type of question and how you should answer it and what you should include. You'll also have grammar notes, including tenses, passive active, and reported speech revision. Read them carefully and study them well. Throughout the ages, we have accepted bloodshed and violence as a necessary part of our life. We keep advising people to be tolerant, yet at the same time we glorify violence, knowing that the two are opposites and do not coexist. We take part in blood sport, boxing, hunting, bullfights. Our games of sport attract the most attention when they contain violence and destruction, as in wrestling, car races, and others. Contagious violence has shifted from players to fans through acts of hooliganism. Moreover, to top it all off, the community has buried its collective head in the sand, and it either ignores the problem or contributes to it. When you think of the technological advances we have made, it is amazing how little we have developed in other respects. We may speak scornfully of the uncivilized Romans and despise them for what they used to do. Yet, we may forgive them because they lived 2,000 years ago and knew no better. However, are our feelings of superiority really justified? Are we any less bloodthirsty? Why do boxing matches, for instance, attract such universal interest? Human beings remain as bloodthirsty as ever. The only difference between the Romans and us is that while they were honest to admit that they enjoyed hungry lions tearing people apart and eating them alive, we find all sorts of arguments to defend such barbarous acts. Nowadays, many spectators take part in violent sports because of the high rewards they bring. They are willing to pay vast sums of money to see violence. So why should we ban violent sports if people enjoy them so much? The answer is simple. They are uncivilized. For centuries, man has been trying to improve himself spiritually and emotionally, admittedly with little success. Social welfare systems advocating peace and human rights are in operation in many parts of the world. They are exerting great civilizing influence that has brought obvious improvements. If we ban them... Okay, so now for question number 1, what nouns do the underlined pronouns in the passage stand for? For each of these, you must go back to the passage and read back to where you understand exactly where the pronoun came from. For paragraph 1, the pronoun to stands for, let's go back and read the text. We keep advising people to be tolerant, yet at the same time we glorify violence, knowing that the two are opposites and do not coexist. Now what two are they talking about here? They're talking about both tolerance and violence. So, to refers to tolerance, and violence. It, in paragraph 1, refers to, let's read, moreover, to top it all off, the community has buried its collective head in the sand, and it either ignores the problem or contributes to it. The underlined "it" here refers to the community. Let's go to paragraph 3. They. So why should we ban violent sports if people enjoy them so much? The answer is simple. They are uncivilized. So here they refers to violent sports. Okay. What is the writer's purpose behind writing the passage above? Well, here it seems that the writer is persuading us, the readers, to be involved in banning or supporting the ban of violent sports. So here, persuade Okay, now let's talk about the writer's attitude towards violent sports. Let's see. Here it seems that the writer has an accusatory tone, a critical tone, and also a judgmental tone. Since he questions the goodness of people. Now, 2 instances from the article that can support this include the only difference between the Romans and us is that the Romans used to admit that they enjoyed hungry lions tearing apart and eating them alive. We find all sorts of arguments to defend such barbaric acts. Also, another sentence that could support this type of tone is that, so why should we ban violent sports if people enjoy them so much? The answer is simple. They are uncivilized. So here he is extremely critical, accusatory, and judgmental. What hasn't changed in human nature according to the text? According to the text, that we speak humans are attracted to violent sports is something that hasn't changed in human nature. So humans are still practicing violent sports and they enjoy it. They enjoy practicing and watching. Okay. Identify in the text 2 contradictory or opposite actions man usually does and explain why they are contradictory. 1, that people are usually giving others advice to be tolerant, but they are glorifying violence when they support or watch violent sports. Another contradictory statement is we speak scornfully of uncivilized people, but enjoy violent sports. Okay, in your opinion, what are 2 negative effects taking part in violent sports on spectators and players? Well, 1, the destruction of property. like in car races. Two, players get hurt. Another one could be that spectators may feel the urge to be violent while watching, and violence is contagious. Okay, so spectators become violent while watching, cheering on their team. And players get hurt. Okay, the community has buried its collective head in the sand. This is an idiom. It means that the community is ignoring facts of the situation. That would have influence on righteousness, like preventing these things from happening, like preventing the violence. Although they would have influence on righteousness. Now, based on the information supplied by the article, the statements are false. Rewrite them so that they harmonize with what the writer says. In these types of questions, you go back to the text, look for a similar statement or something related to it, and correct it by writing a whole different statement if it's asking you to correct the false statements. Here we go. Developments in technology go side by side with improvements of man's behavior. According to the text, it's quite the opposite. So, here I would say that development in technology has not shown the same type of development of man's behavior. Okay. Number 2, making money is the only reason that makes people join violent sports. Is the only reason. Is it the only reason for people to join violent sports? Now, the text says that many spectators take part in violent sports because of the high rewards they bring. They want to see violence, so making money is one of the main reasons that makes people join violent sports and watch them as well. Okay, let's go to the vocabulary part. Now, you need to skim through paragraphs 1 and 2 for words that might have the similar meanings as these words here. If you get confused, underline words that you think might be words related to these. So, Once you underline them, you gather your thoughts and go through each paragraph, each sentence that has a word, and look for context clues. Number 1, give honor to or bless. Here, we could say glorify from paragraph 1. Tending to spread or catching. Contagious. Dislike or regard with scorn. Here we can use both despise or scornful. Savage or uncivilized. From paragraph 2. Barbaric. Okay. Now, let's scan the text for a statement of fact. Statement of facts in paragraph 3 is social welfare systems advocating peace and human rights are in operation in many parts of the world. Here we cannot dispute this sentence, so it tells us it's a fact. A statement of opinion. There are many opinions here, many opinion statements. Let's use the only difference between the Romans and us from paragraph 2 is that while they were honest to admit that they enjoyed hungry lions, tearing people apart and eating them alive, we find all sorts of arguments to defend such barbarous acts. Now that's definitely an opinion. Because I'm sure we can find more differences than one between us and the Romans. Okay, a statement including irony. Well, the first paragraph kind of gives us that type of a feeling where we keep advising people to be tolerant, yet at the same time we glorify violence. Now here this is irony because they're complete opposites. Okay, a cause-effect relationship. Okay, in paragraph 3. Okay, the first sentence is a cause-effect relationship. Many spectators Okay, so many spectators take part in violent sports because of the high awards they bring. High awards they bring. So here's the cause. They bring high awards and spectators take part as the effect. Okay, here's the cause and effect. And of course, because is a clue word here. Find the errors in the use of verb tenses in the following sentences and correct them. Number 1. By the time boxing was banned in Austria in 1856, people had been watching it. So instead of are, we say had been watching it for 20 years. And this is past perfect. So here we're talking about an event that happened in the past. By the time it was banned, so this is completed action, past, and completed. So this indicates we should use the past perfect tense. Had been watching. Past perfect tense for 20 years. Past perfect continuous tense. Here in our timeline, we have 1856, 20 years later, 1876, two events that happened in the past that was continuous between this time. So we use had plus been plus the verb ing. There you go. Now, when the boxers start fighting for the championship next week, I have left. I will not be able to see any matches. This sentence here indicates that this is completely incorrect, and it helps us figure out that this should be changed. I would have left. I would have already left. So, when the boxers start fighting for the championships next year, I will have left, or I would have had left. I will have had left, or I would have left. Okay. Now, number 3. While my brother and I were watching a wrestling match in the sitting room last week, my parents read newspaper articles. While my brother and I were watching a wrestling match in the sitting room last week, my parents read. Now, since we're talking about the past, we should use my parents were reading. As we use the continuous here, the past continuous here, we must use the past continuous here. Everybody is believing that boxing is an extremely dangerous game. This is a stative verb. So we should say everybody believes that boxing is an extremely dangerous game, since we don't use dative verbs in the continuous tense. Rarely. Okay. For the writing part, you're going to write an essay about a sport you feel is important. You can use the same sport you used for your project or choose a different one. You have to give 3 reasons why the sport is beneficial for players. You have to outline your ideas and then write a developed essay. Don't forget to make a title for your essay. Your outline should be in the forms of previous outlines in your Beyond Level 3 Grammar and Composition book. There are the outline forms with the Roman numeral numbers. You must include in your introduction a hook that gets the reader's attention. Make sure you have a general statement and a thesis statement stating your central idea of what all your essay will be about. In your body paragraph, make sure you have developed, complete, interesting sentences with transitions. Your conclusion should also leave an afterthought for the reader. So once you restate your thesis statement, you can also leave some kind of a question or statement or quote that gets the reader thinking, that the reader will keep something from your composition and take it with them. Good luck, study hard, best wishes to you.